All right, thanks, Chelsea. You know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and even though this is the last day of May, folks deal with mental health issues year-round, of course. Well, this afternoon, we sat down with Alan Brown. You may have seen him here on First Look at 4 a few times. He works here at Wsaz and is also busy with his pretty popular band in our area, the Dividends. Alan shared some of his daily battles. Take a look. Alan, thanks for joining us. As we mentioned, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. The point that you're trying to make is that it is really something that people need to think about all year long. When did you finally come to grips with this in your life and say, you know what, I want to talk about this?
I think towards the end of 2017, that was when I really started to focusing on the mental health aspect of my life. I mean, I'm 27, it took that long to really start focusing in on it, and but it's so important because it affects every little thing about you. I mean, your actions, thoughts, emotions, all of that comes into play.
So when you finally, you know, when anybody really finally comes to grips with the fact that I need to talk about this, how much of a relief is that? How relieving is that to talk to anybody about it? Professional help, family members, friends. How much of a relief does it feel like the weight just lifts off your shoulders when you do that?
It's a huge relief because I think, at least in my case, and everyone's case is going to be different and everyone's situation is different, but I didn't realize I really had a problem at first. Huh. And as much as I understood like the harmful things that I was doing to myself physically or whatever, I didn't understand that I even really, it just became normal. So I think that when you can kind of confront that and say, this has got to be taken care of. Like in therapy, one of the things I gathered from that was that, you know, in my case, I had a chemical imbalance. It's causing depression and all the stuff like that. And that starts affecting your thoughts. So then your thoughts start affecting your actions, and your actions become habits. So once you kind of get buried into that habitual, like, form of just doing these things, you don't even think about it. So once you can kind of just hit up front with it and really just grab it and just take it over, I mean, that weight kind of just definitely gets relieved because you're no longer stuck in that habit anymore.
So how much more free do you feel, or how much different do you feel, and then follow that up with where you go from here?
Different. I mean, I will say I even have bad days still to this day. It's not just an automatic switch when you start getting help, but I know how, I have perspective and tools to understand how to get out of situations now. Okay. Just a couple days ago, my mind was all over the place and kind of going back to how it felt a while ago, and I know how to get out of that now. So from here on out, I mean, it's just a matter of using those tools and just kind of refocusing yourself. Almost, it's a daily thing. It's not just a switch that it just goes away. It's not, happiness to me is not, I learned this from my bass player in the band, happiness to me is not something that is like, it's not like a finish line goal. It's something that comes and goes, like sadness or whatever, but you can do things to improve your chances to be happy every single day. So it's a matter of just finding it. It's a daily thing. It's not a switch or anything. So moving forward, you just have to remember that each day is itself. I mean,
it's a good message. So thanks, Alan.
Thank you very much.
Now we know Alan isn't alone in this fight. I mean, in fact, 1 in 5 adults in America experience a mental illness, and nearly 1 in 25 adults lives with a serious mental illness.
And that's according to NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. And May, as we mentioned, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. So joining us today to talk more about that is Amy Stamper. Amy, you've been with us before, and you've talked about the need for people to seek out help. Well, there's an example right there. Alan said he hid from it for a number of reasons.
He internalized it.
Internalized, didn't want to talk about it, never talked to his friends, family. 1 or 2 people maybe in his life he even mentioned it to. Now he's getting help. And he said now he can talk to everybody about it.
That's the biggest hurdle, right? Is just being able to kind of admit that you might need help, right?
I think that is one of the biggest hurdles, because a lot of times there is a stigma with mental illness, and a lot of times people aren't educated about it. So they don't understand what's going on, and they often think, am I the only one experiencing this? What's wrong with me? Typical things like that. And once they get help and realize, okay, other people are struggling with this, and actually start talking about it, then it becomes normal conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And how would you say would be one of the best ways to get people out there to maybe admit that they
That
need
first step.
help and to take that first step.
Yeah.
Well, the first step is possibly just reaching out to somebody that you do trust. It doesn't necessarily have to be a counselor right at first.
Sure.
I would advise talking to a counselor, but sometimes it's just talking to a close friend, someone you can confide in, and then maybe they can go with you to get the help or send you in the right directions. If you're a kid, you can always talk to your school counselor or somebody at the school. But there's many agencies around here. At St. Mary's, we offer an employee assistance program for our employees and our patients. There's Prestare. There's a lot of community-based places that you can get help, but sometimes if you don't really want to go that far, you're not ready yet, you could always just try to reach out to somebody you can confide in.
One thing that Alan mentioned in the interview, and I'm sure this goes along, while every case is different, he said he understands, and one of the things that he had to understand, and now he does, is that it's not a quick fix. It's not like turning off and on a light. He's not all of a sudden better. This is something that he has to continue to address, and that's probably the factor that is kind of universal in cases, that it's not just a quick fix for anybody.
It's not, and I think with everybody in general, you have to kind of maintain your mental health as well. I mean, if you lose weight, you can't just start eating again and keep it maintained that you've lost weight. You have to maintain it with exercise. Just like with mental health, you have to do things to maintain it as well. I mean, it's not a quick fix. It's not going to see a counselor. We don't have a magic wand that you walk out and everything's relieved. But it's a work in progress, and we all have a work in progress. We all do those things to make ourselves feel good.
And I think part of this too is all of us individually need to step up and maybe take a look at a friend or maybe a loved one or someone that you know that could be going through this and reach out to them. Be that first person that does that, right?
Yes, that's great if people can do that. You know, if you see a friend who's isolating, I think that's something that is a key thing to look for. If you hear from a friend every day and all of a sudden you don't hear from them that much, or they're refusing to go places or not accepting invitations, maybe there is something going on that you could reach out and say, hey, I haven't seen you for a while, maybe one-on-one lunch or something like that.
Right. And what I love about Alan's story too, Alan is such a bubbly character that you would probably never think something like this would happen.
He hid from it, and he said he was very good. He admits now. He said, I was so good at hiding it from people. And he also, though, said he hid it from himself. How common is that people, they just say, no, I'm fine, and they don't realize that maybe they do need some help? Is that a common thing?
That can be a common thing with people, that they don't want to face that there is something, so to speak, wrong with them, because they don't really know what it is. And I think there's the stigma of, I don't want to be labeled, I don't want people to think anything negatively of me, so they just kind of, okay, I'm going to be fine, I'm just going to put on a persona that I'm happy and everything's great.
Wow.
Amy, thanks so much for coming in. It's something we're going to talk about, and actually we're going to follow up with Alan next week, and he's agreed to sit down with us and do a Facebook Live and answer anybody's questions. He said he's not a professional, but he'd be happy to at least talk to people. So we'll promote that on my WSAZ Facebook page. We'll put his clip on from today and then talk more about it, and we'll have you on in the future again.
Yeah. Okay. We appreciate you,
Amy, thank you.
Thank you for having me.